Hi there, it's Mr. Tush over at Global, and now we're going to do the blocks for our CoinFlip experiment. Probably the most complicated part of it, but here's where we are, and this is our blocks view. Now we're going to need a couple of new variables. Let me get this out of the way so we can put all of our variables together. We're going to need a new variable that we're going to need to call n, and n is going to stand for how many times we flip it. And we're going to put that in at a value of 0. So n is going to equal 0 because we have nothing there. And then we're going to set up another variable called n heads. Now this is going to be our way of counting n heads. And this is also going to be set for 0. And this is going to be how we're going to count the number of times it comes up heads. So it's preset for heads, and then we're going to have 0 flips, and this is going to be 0 number of heads to start with. Now, we're going to do the event handler. This here is our event handler, and we are going to change it to run our experiment. First thing we're going to do is going to pull all this stuff out. And you're going to need this later, so don't ditch it, don't throw it away, just put it over here. And you're going to need that. Now, you're going to have to insert a setter block. So let's go in here and let's get a setter block. All right, we'll put this in here. And it sets global n to, and then we're going to go in here and grab our text box n. Doesn't really matter which one we pick, so here. Whatever the text says. So what's going to happen is when I click the button, first thing it's going to do is it's going to set this number, the number of times we flip, to whatever number I put in the text box. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying whatever number goes in here is the number of times I flip. The number of times I flip. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And then I'm going to add a setter block that sets global n heads to 0. So I'm going to add this setter block right in here. And we're going to grab global n heads. And I'm going to actually set it to the math function of 0. That's one of the things I have to do. Now, we are going to add a new kind of event handler called a loop. And a loop is a little tricky. What's going to happen is there's a bunch of different things here that do if-thens are most common one. Well, this one right here and a few others, they're called loops. This is for each number from 1 to 5 by 1, do something. So I'm going to grab this. So let's look at what this is. This is for each number from 1 to 5, moving by 1, by whole numbers, do something. That's exactly what I want. I'll tell you why. I'm going to throw it in there. And we're going to reset. We're going to reset this by taking out 5. We don't want to go from 1 to 5. We actually don't need that. We want to go from 1 to get global n. So whatever number I put in that text box, it's going to be the number. If I say 15, it's going to be from 1 to 15. If I say 400, it's going to be from 1 to 400 by 1. Each time I'm going to do something. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the set global coin back to the do. So let me grab this and pull this off so we can have it. I'm going to say that every time from 1 to whatever number I put in, that's the number of times I'm going to flip it. And so then I'm going to add the if-then block underneath it. Now, I don't need all of this. I don't need this setter, and I don't need this setter, because we're not going to report all of that. This stuff's not getting reported anymore. But if global coin is 1, so you're going to run it between 1 and 2 this many times. And if it's a 1, every time it says 1, I'm going to set my setter block. I'm going to set, my count of heads to, and then I'm going to need a math block. I'm actually going to need a plus block. I'm going to grab global n heads to plus 1. So every time I do this, I set global n heads to get global n heads plus 1. And this else block, I don't need this anymore. How do I get rid of it? I go up here, and I actually drag this out, and it goes away. Because I don't need to count the tails. I'm only counting the heads. I can count the tails by subtracting the n number, or the heads number, from the n number, and that'll give me the number of tails. Now, so far, I've got the coin flip happening and the experiment happening inside the variable, but I don't know what the variable is telling me. So I have to put something underneath the do block. To do that, I have to report the results. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go to label results, and I'm going to grab, there's the label results text, here we go. And I'm going to put in the label results. After the do block, I'm going to actually join in some things. I'm going to put in some text. So I'm going to do a join. Now the join is what's called concatenation. It puts together things that might be custom with text strings in any particular order. I could put together a bunch of different text strings, but usually I use this when I've got, static messages and custom messages. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a piece of text, and I'm going to put in heads and colon. So type in here heads colon, and I'll probably put in a space. And then I'm going to add get global n heads. So I'm going to say, now it's going to report the number of times it came up heads. And then I'm going to add 2 spots. And I'm going to have to add 2 spots by going over here, add the string, and add the string. So now I've got 2 more spots. And then I'm going to add another text. And I'm going to put in a couple of spaces, space, 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 and then tails, colon, space. And then, believe it or not, I'm going to put in a math block right here. Because if you think about it, the number of tails is the number of flips minus the number of heads. That'll give us the number of tails. So I'm going to grab a math block and grab a minus block. And I'm going to put in get global n, which is the number of flips, minus the number of global n heads. If you've done that successfully, you should test this out, and it should work. Hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching.